What's up, y'all? Real good. Just dropped the car off at the shop. We'll be walking around this morning, see what we can get into. Found this rockin' diner with a super friendly guy that says he's always happy.
If you lost 5 seats. So you ready for this? We have 4 freshmen. This is kind of this group. It's 4 freshmen. It's 1 junior, 2 seniors.
I was nervous we wouldn't find anything good for you today in this drab little town, but this cafe is a gem and this guy's fantastic. Let's see how the food is. Let's see if the Wi-Fi works. Alright, it is Social Detox Monday, which means I should probably catch up on all my social messages, respond to them, and then get back to me. Enjoyed it. It's pretty good. I'll probably regret eating all that. I'm sweating.
That's so cool.
That's so
amazing.
cool. Oh, excuse me, there's 2 swings, not just one. We have a 2-story Driftwood house. Might be 3 stories, actually. That is a trip. The master bedroom actually has a bed. This thing is ridiculous. Oh, too cool. There's a bed, ceiling, this ridiculous view. Pretty spectacular and super sturdy. They definitely used some screws and nails, but it's very creative. I'm very, very impressed and quite delighted by the whole thing. Heading back to the cabin, car's fixed, belly full of fresh mandarins from down south, friends of friends. Power's gonna be out of the cabin for a bit. Party tonight, and I am sleepy. I'm very sleepy. I've already driven several hours today, and it's afternoon. I'm trying to get through all of my messages. There's so many messages, and I'm using this opportunity to continue to lean into questions of social discernment, which is another topic that we've talked about here. And I actually really am curious to start getting your feedback on social discernment, because I'm still feeling somewhat split. I don't want to get out of balance. If I don't exercise social discernment and say no in selective ways, I feel like I'm just going to get generally reclusive, and I don't think that serves me either. So I want to be sure to sort of lean into yeses in the right places. But I also noticed that some of the places where I want to lean into yeses are what I call breaking relationships. And I've introduced the terms here with us, non-breaking relationships, and how that's really feels like my goal. Briefly, to me, an example of a breaking relationship is a lot of romantic relationships to me feel like they become breaking relationships, especially once you introduce sexuality. Things seem to get to a place where if it's a serious enough relationship that a breakup can happen. Whereas with our friends, our lifelong friends, it's like a breakup is a much rarer occurrence, at least with guys. I don't know guys that have ever broken up in their friendship. Maybe they fought or something, but there's still like a togetherness, a stick around. And I really crave that non-breaking. I crave, as I've mentioned, permanence to me seems like a stand-in for meaning in a lot of cases. It's a place where I feel like I can grow something and we can grow together. And I think growth to me feels somewhat inherently meaningful. It has potential, if only as a preparation for some unknown future thing. I like the idea of clearing out our demons and increasing our ability to show up in whatever things we might care about that are likely or unlikely to come to us in the future. So social discernment, I'm really curious about your ideas about social discernment. How do you select who to hang out with or not? Do you hang out with the people that make you feel good and not the ones that don't? Do you only hang out with people that are that you're attracted to? Or do you only hang out with people that you think will help your career? Or only people that like the same activities that you like? Do you only hang out with people that have the same sort of perspectives? Do you actively look for people that have different perspectives? Do you like to hang out with people that reach out to you? You're just kind of a sit back and say yes person? Or do you like to reach out? Are you inspired by the people who say no to you? There's so many patterns I've seen in the ways that we relate, both platonically and romantically, socially. So I'm curious, what do you do in your social discernment? And then what would you rather do? And I'm feeling like for me, I'm coming into an extended period of social abundance and needing to say no. I really should be saying no. Social and romantic abundance. And I'd like to not get carried away. I really like to be clear on what's right and good for me. And so I get to settle into that and feel into that. And I need to do more of that work. But I'm open to more of your ideas and feelings around social discernment. There's also a somewhat popular idea that gets spoken out here, which is to spend a lot of time with yourself and learn how to be with yourself. And someone that I've recently been spending time with seems to really lean into that and really likes to spend most of their time with themselves. And I admire this person in a lot of ways, and I wonder how much that correlates with the amount of time they spend on their own. I think it's not only that they spend time on their own, I think they spend time on their own doing things like things that they enjoy getting better at and feel passionate about, but they lean into those things, whether it's surfing or playing music or any other skill or hobby. It brings me joy to relate to these people who have spent time in relationship with their passions, their hobbies. I admit part of my passion is healthy interpersonal intimacy. So there's some overlap here, but I still want to bring some clearer clarity to social discernment and a little more strength to my practice. I noticed that for me, curiosity, adventure used to be something that motivated me to spread myself thin. And there's still some lingering kind of curiosity and wanting to be open to meeting new people and meeting new places and exploring new things. And that can still lead to spreading myself too thin. But I also noticed that some of my closest relationships are really genuinely rich. And I'd like to continue prioritizing those, even if they feel sometimes, I'm not sure, as enticing, or that I'm not addicted and craving them. I want to be clear on that. I want to be clear with myself that certain friendships I don't necessarily have an addiction towards, but that they're really healthy, and that I think I'd be a better person. I think I'd be more connected with myself in a healthy way, more connected with reality and goodness and work, as well as other things, be able to play into other side hobbies, like my absolute love at the moment, which is uncovery. The people who are down for it, I'd like to keep leaning into it and growing my experience of it. Oh, check out this view. I guess I'm not getting any further anytime soon. Okay, time to walk. I'm home, mostly unpacked, dishes done, made food. It's delicious. It's afternoon and I'm sleepy. I actually feel really good settling in with myself now. Eating familiar food. It's not entirely familiar. I mean, some of this is stuff that friends made for me over a week ago. Mixed up leftovers, but tea, that's another thing a friend left for me. That's a new thing I enjoy. Being in my space. I love my space. The familiarity of the food. I love the peace here. Yeah, important to note, this space is really important to me. This is super part of my paradise. I don't know how dependent I am on it. Oh, gosh, it's so nice. Where's your paradise? Where's the place that you really feel good settling into? What feels like home? Go and write that in the comments. Yeah, I'm curious about other places where I feel this way too. Wasted time on Minecraft, but I got the tent all cleaned up. Got the bird poop all cleaned up off of it, and the chair. So making little bits of progress, uploading a ton of videos now, and feeling sleepy, a little bit sick in my belly, ooh, anxious and avoidant. Really annoyed, irritable, like bugs, zero tolerance for it. Things falling out of the tent bag, angry. So feeling very irritable. Wondering if it has anything to do with the way I spent my weekend, or my lack of sleep, or food choices, and heavily wondering if it has to do with going back to my job on Wednesday for a couple weeks. But definitely feeling irritable. Belly not feeling great. Everything's still beautiful here. And yeah, not too much inspiration to report, mostly a lazy day. You know, to try to be honest, I think I'm actually struggling a bit with feeling kind of like I'm at the top of the world and I don't know where to go next. I think I've suffered from a similar perspective in relationships and jobs. I feel that way about where I live, specifically the cabin and paradise. And yeah, I worry and struggle to let go of things. I can't say that this cabin and paradise are not serving me, but I can recognize that I'm clinging and that I fear trying somewhere new. The fear feels like a fear of regret. Why would I give this up if this is the best thing I've ever known? And these things seem to creep and manifest in a way that almost suggests, and I believe, that it's better to feel like you're continuing to improve in meaningful ways than it is to have already arrived at whatever you think is the place you're trying to get. A lot of the things that I've ever wanted in my life, I've either achieved or gotten close enough to realize I don't really want those things, or gotten close enough to realize it's not worth the effort. And in a lot of ways that's left me satisfied, but it also leaves some lack of drive, and I feel like I lack some of the egoic fantasies that used to drive me and my younger version of self. I find myself left a lot more with this task of inner peace with less, even though I have much more. I'm surrounded by rich relationships, and I love my little place here in paradise, and it's not cheap, but I've worked hard enough and saved long enough and continue to have lived beneath my means for long enough to be able to be here. So even though my job is ending next month, I could still stick around here for quite a long time. But there's this unease that I feel somewhere down in my guts and even out beyond my body, of not knowing what's next. I guess there's a feeling of needing to know what's next, needing some path. I've talked a lot about the excitement of uncovery here. And I'm curious why that's not alive for me today. Again, it might be simpler, more foundational things, lack of sleep, poor food choices, maybe the activities of the weekend, maybe the dread of the upcoming job. But when I get in places like this where I notice my irritability and clinging, and especially if I notice an unwillingness to sit and do the work, uncover with myself, then I start to feel concern. So I feel some concern. It brings up a sense of urgency, like a pushing of myself, which feels like it continues a stress cycle. Instead of a baseline of peace and choice, it feels like a compulsion, just a generalized micro anxiety. I'm grateful to be in this place. I feel like it helps me calibrate all of my theories, my activities and behaviors. And the work is harder than ever for me when I'm in an unmotivated place. Where do you dig down to grab that effort? If I feel just compelled to hide, if I want to wallow, I gotta dig deeper to take action. It feels most important to me then to be taking right action. And my heart goes out to, because I can relate to feeling compulsion. My heart goes out to people who feel compelled into terrible addictions. I can relate to the drive to escape, to compulsions, to a lack of willpower. And I'm not exactly sure at the moment what keeps me relatively on the straight and narrow. I've certainly had many periods in my life of, less than scrupulous activities and adventures. Maybe it's my upbringing. Who knows? Thanks, Mom and Dad. Thanks, East Coast. Yeah. I'm feeling a little bit of peace, a little bit of worry, a little pause, a wanting, missing. I feel a sort of a little bit of nostalgia, a little bit more like a saudade. Yeah. Oh my, that nap was ridiculously long and sweaty and sleepy, and now it's nighttime and I'm awake and not a good couple days before needing to start work again. I wonder how much is like subconscious sabotage. Okay. I rallied. I'm on my way out to see friends and meet new people. I've got this really gross stomach ache out of my guts. I was disoriented. I showered. Now I feel more like dread, but not just dread of like upcoming work. It feels more like self-doubt about the choices I make. My reality goodness work. Like my goodness is out of whack. Like I'm not really seeing clearly, or choosing right, or able to do the work, and like I'm falling apart. Feeling this new kind of need for a why. Noting somehow a sense of disconnect with myself, like inner peace just isn't a good enough reason. super suspicious of whether or not that has to do with going back to work, because it feels like that would come from going back to work for me, based on how much I somatically dislike this job at this point. I am scared that it's actually a deep allergy to this job, or even work in general. So it's sort of this like catastrophizing. One of the books I'm reading has offered the term flashback for, it seems like anything that could be a trauma trigger back into some past pattern, and then to just call it a flashback. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to say this is a flashback to, and then I guess the mechanism would be imagining it's a flashback to, in this case, a place where I felt helpless, like I couldn't stop something that I didn't want happening to me. To be completely frank and face some shame and embarrassment, it feels like tickle torture. I don't know if you know what tickle torture is, but I can remember mostly my mom like tickle torturing me, and I've never thought of that as a terribly bad thing. Like I haven't noted that as a way that I feel traumatized in my childhood. I have thought about it intellectually and been like, interesting, that's not a comfortable state, and to force someone non-consensually into that and like keep them there feels odd and a bit violent, and like forcing someone to disgust, especially from the primary caretaker. But I'm feeling that right now, and I'm kind of jazzed and also skeptical and nervous when these sort of somatic leaps happen. It's not a rational jump, it's a somatic jump, just somewhere. Gotta sneeze. So yeah, tickle torture, being forcing a helpless child into an uncomfortable state, where there's screams are somewhat like delight, but they're also super uncomfortable and probably want you to stop. Or maybe they think they have to let you do that because you're their caretaker and they don't want to let you down. And then I'm noticing how that can all be slightly bent to look at romantic relationship stuckness, where like maybe I let my romantic partners sort of walk on me in certain ways, and I fail to set boundaries because I'm afraid to lose sort of codependent sort of attachment to a partner, even if it's a new love interest. And maybe there's something about an allergy to discomfort in that case. This feels more like a helplessness and dread, and it doesn't feel relationship based. It feels based off. No, it does. It has a whole note of like my lifestyle feels like it's slipped, skewing, like almost like an out of control. Almost like without any particular substance or activity I can point to as an addiction, like a just generalized addiction, generalized like addictive behavior or pattern, or even being, which is more shaming than noting it as an attribute or just an action or history. But this sense of almost like, oh wow, I'm dysfunctional, like I am an addict, like oh. And earlier today was wondering, am I addicted to feeling good? And also, am I just addicted to feeling? Am I just addicted to somatic orientation to life right now? But if I just go as far as am I addicted to feeling good, that question kind of comes up, and I'm like, why am I pulled to avoid my discomforts? Why am I still allowing some compulsions to come up? And I'm also noticing this really odd situation of relativity where left out on my own, I would just be pushing myself probably militantly until I break, right? Like a perfectionism sort of pattern. Whereas when I'm not around others, getting to see the way that others are flailing and struggling, it's hard for me to cut myself some slack and be like, oh, it's okay to do that for a couple hours, relax, ease up on yourself. So there's still somehow some strong sort of like perfectionism, I guess, which is a term I haven't quite played with before. So I haven't done much research on perfectionism, but just a total guess, I would coin it at this point as perfectionism is a case of extreme demand for performance and achievement on self, and withholding love in failure to achieve that, as opposed to self-acceptance and loving and caring for self wherever we're at, having compassion for normalcy or falling short of our own expectations placed on ourselves. And I can relate to that. I suppose that doesn't seem like the excruciating case. Right now there's this dread and sickness and sense of helplessness, and like my values are skewing, and like I'm somehow not seeing what I'm supposed to be focusing on. It's like somehow I'm not really embracing it. And it also comes up to me, if you go back and watch the goodness video, it strikes me as like I probably know exactly what I think I should be focusing on and what I should be doing, and I'm probably just resisting it. There's probably no's that I should be saying that I'm not, and there's probably feelings I should be sitting with that I'm not, that are just obviously good, that are just obviously right, but uncomfortable. And I'm feeling, so maybe this really is a problem not of knowing goodness, but rather of doing the work, being uncomfortable. For example, sitting and uncovering with myself and caring for myself and giving myself love and care and space. Lots of words, lots of ramble, not totally our usual somatic process. Thanks for sticking with me. We'll keep working on this. Let's see what comes up. But first, it's time to hit this gathering. I also get to feel social insecurity, which is weird. I haven't felt that in a long time, so we'll see how this goes. Fun, kind of, like kind of morbid, like uncomfortable. It's so funny. I meet so many new people all the time. Whatever. Let's see what's going on here. This actually, that points to this totally being a flashback of a sort. Like, this does not really feel exactly like me usually. I'm usually feeling good, fine and capable. Parking's pretty random. Side of a mountain, dirt road. See if I can find this place. It is super late, but I'm super glad that I went. Bunch of very sweet people. Really nice to meet new people. It was sweet and peaceful and yin the whole time. It's basically like being asleep while being awake, except with friends. I got to see some friends I knew, made some new friends, got to dance, stretch, even play music, sing a little bit. It was really a wonderful, sweet time, and I feel great now. Hopefully we get sleep fixed by Wednesday. So yeah, note is, it's nice to say yes to things, meet some new people, and also remembering that we're looking for places to say no as well. But certainly recognizing that being with people feels good to me. Noticing that being with certain people feels good to me. And that still seems to be the richest thing for me, is being with certain kinds of people. Yeah, I think there's some clear places I should be leaning in, and some not so comfortable places I should probably be leaning away from. And I'm not going to process that right now. I'm grateful to be feeling good, and I'll see y'all again soon. It's been real good. Thanks for hanging. See you tomorrow.